we're going to be playing the role of an analyst. And this analyst is new at a company called Superstore. Superstore is sort of like an office works. We have lots of different stores across the US and the world. And in this data set we're looking at, we have all of our orders for all of our customers for those locations. So because I'm new, I want to get an idea of how well we're doing overall. So we're going to start off in desktop. And here we are looking at a first sheet. And there are three main ways to interact with Tableau. We can ask Tableau, we can ask Tableau for help, or we can do it ourselves. So first we're going to ask Tableau, and we're going to do that just by taking our sales over here and double clicking. And you can see it builds out a visualization for me showing that we have $12 million in overall sales. If I want to see that over time, I can double click on order date as well. Now I can see how that's broken down over the years. It looks like we're growing pretty quickly. One thing that you'll notice is that Tableau changed that visualization to a line chart. And the reason it did that is it's applying visualization best practices on top of the data. So Tableau knows the best way to represent numbers over time is with a line. And so it's applied that. If I want to go and ask Tableau for help instead, I can use Show Me. Show Me is the most common visualization type. It's not by any means the full extent of what Tableau can do, but it's the most popular ones. So I can go through different visualizations and see what best represents the story that I want to tell. The Tableau recommendation is highlighted here in orange. So I'm going to stick with that. If I want to and take it a step further and build it out myself, I can use the marks cards. So Tableau breaks down visualizations into its parts using the columns and the rows and the marks. And the marks is actually using pre-attentive attributes, our ability to visualize and understand data using our natural instincts. So when we use color and size, we just naturally get that and understand that, as Melody showed you earlier. So here we're going to switch the years to the month using the little caret. And it looks like we have a lot of seasonality and we vary month for month. But it's hard to see whether what sort of trend that is. So I'm going to take order date and add that to our marks card to the color. And now it's going to overlay each of those years on top of each other. So I can see that we seem to be growing, and we definitely are growing. 2019 is much higher than previous years in 2016. And I can see there's definitely a seasonal trend. The end of the year is really important to us. We start off slow, and we've got this dip in the middle of summer and then jump back up when back to school shopping happens. So that's can really influence our marketing strategy and the sort of campaigns and discounts that we run. One other thing that I wanted to highlight is the difference between the green indicator here and the blue. So blue represents discrete values. So in most cases, are dimensions, things we like to slice and dice data by. Whereas the green for our sales represents continuous values. So these are typically numerical and they don't really have a start or an end. And Tableau does different things with different types of data. So how I represent discrete and continuous in visualizations is different. And dates are actually quite unique because dates can be both discrete, like this month, or it can be continuous down here with the month-year combo. So now let's jump into sales by different categories. So we can see we're growing and we seem to be doing pretty well. Let's take a look at how well we're doing from a category point of view. I'm going to create a new visualization here. And I'm going to take my sales and drag that to columns. And then I'm going to take my products and add that to rows. And I'm going to drill into this. So you can see here I've got this little plus sign. And that's because I've created a hierarchy. So the hierarchy allows me to drill down and continue to analyze further information that's related. So here my product hierarchy starts from category, subcategory, and then goes all the way to individual product names. So it looks like we're selling in the furniture area, a lot of bookcases and chairs and tables as well. Let me just sort that. But how profitable are we? So here we're going to take our profit and we're going to drag it onto color and again use those pre-attentive attributes in order to help data stand out for us. So here it's really clear that even though we're selling a lot of tables, we're not actually profitable in the tables category. We're actually losing money for tables. So let's drill into that a little bit more using a map. We'll jump over and start to build out a map. So on the left for all of these little icons, you can see that there's these indicators, ABC, globe. This tells us what type of data Tableau is recognizing that value as. So ABC is a text field, and country is a geographical data point. That means that Tableau automatically recognizes that it's geographical and automatically creates latitude and longitude points to go along with it. I'm just going to double click on country. And here you can see a little blue dot for each of the countries that we have in our data set. We want to get an idea of how well each of those countries are doing in terms of sales and profits. I'm going to take my sales and I'm going to drag it onto size. So the bigger the dot, the more sales there are. And you can see the United States is bigger than the countries in LATAM. And then I'm going to take my profit and I'm going to add that onto color. Because we used color to show profit in the last visualization, we want to be consistent and use color here too. And then I'm going to filter. So if I take my category down here and right click on it, I'm just going to click on show filter. And now I can focus in on different areas. So if we're only concerned with furniture, want to look at tables a little bit more, we can see that overall the United States is profitable for furniture, but some of our smaller regions like the Dominican Republic and then other lands have been profitable for furniture as a whole. With maps too, we can get a lot more granular in how we're displaying things. So this is the default map, but if I go to map and the drop down here, click on map layers, I can change how it looks. And I can also turn on the layers for what's being displayed as I start to filter in or drill into something more detailed. So I can add land, streets, points of interest just by clicking on those map layer options. Another thing that a lot of my customers find really interesting is I can add a data layer for the US at least. This is pulling census data, and it can add things like household size, households, age, demographic data, as well as income data. I work with all of the marketing agencies in the US, and for them, this is really important to compare their campaign data against the sort of demographic or areas that they target. So if I'm targeting something that maybe like a more expensive mattress company by using the what color occupation, and then starting to break that down, you can go all the way to zip code. I can get a good idea when I'm overlaying those campaigns on geographic points, who I'm actually able to target without having to go and actually find that data myself. But since we're looking at global data, I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so we took a look at each of our different regions. Now let's take a look at the profits in a little bit more and see some of those things that might be causing issues with our profitability in the table area. So like a lot of stores, Superstore offers discounts to customers. So let's take a look at our discounting strategy across different product lines and locations. I'm going to take profit. I'm going to add that to rows. And then I'm going to take my discount, add it to columns. That's going to create a scatter chart, very boring one at this point. I'm going to take our categories. I want to see what I'm actually selling, and add that to color. And then I'm going to break this down by our orders. So by adding order ID to detail, I'm going to get a dot for each of the individual orders across each category. So if I have an order where I purchase 2 things, it's going to break it down into 2 dots. And then where it sits on my scatter chart shows me that combo of the profit and the discount. So I can see as my discounts go down, my profitability goes up. And down here at the end where I'm offering higher discounts, looks like all of those are actually unprofitable. So we found some interesting insights here. We saw that seasonality is really key to us. We follow trends where the end of the year and back to school period is important. And we really need to do well there to do well for the year as a whole. We also saw that we had profitability issues with tables. And this is for the entire world, so I probably have a lot more issues when we go down to individual regions. We took a look at our profitability overall for each of our countries. And then we saw that our discounting strategy is really important to our profitability, and the more we discount, the less profitable we are. Now we're going to bring these together into a dashboard and allow us to interact with each of these to get more granular insights. So I'm going to go over here to my dashboard. Oh, I already changed it to automatic. Usually it starts off at a fixed size. I like to switch it to automatic so that it's responsive and automatically fits your screen. I am going to start by pulling that map out. And then I'm going to take my, this one here, my sales and profit, and put it down at the bottom. And my sales seasonality will go on the right. And then my profits and discounts will go over here. And I'm just going to smush it a bit. You can see some of these don't quite fit, so I'm going to have it fit to the entire view so that my bars is filling the space. One thing that we can see here is we kind of made a mistake with our colors, where we're using colors here to identify each of the different categories, our office supplies and our furnitures. But on the other vises, colors mean profitability. So it's going to be confusing for people for it not to not be consistent. So let's go back, and we're going to change that. Instead of category on color, we're going to make that be a shape. Okay. Another thing that I want to modify is that right now the filter only applies to the visit it was set up with, but I want it to apply to everything, which is hard to see because it's the map. So I'm going to go to the dropdown, say apply to worksheets, and all using this data source. So now if we focus in on furniture, everything updates to represent that. I'm also going to get rid of some of these icons here, and I'm going to make this floating so that I can bring it over to the map that it's associated with. Okay, so one thing that we saw before is that we had an issue with the tables in the east. Let's just focus on everything for now. Let's start out by looking at the US. So I'm going to click use as a filter, and then I'm going to click on United States, and that's going to update everything to just look at how we're performing for the United States. I can see here that the tables is still a problem. I have some issues in other areas, but tables really stands out. And one thing I forgot to do as well is to add an average line, so I can see an average of my discounting. Okay, so it looks like here when I'm in the US, my average discount is pretty low, somewhere around 3%. See if that varies for some of our unprofitable areas. I click on tables, I can see that that actually increases quite a bit. So we're offering a much higher discount for tables than we are as a whole. And that's making a big difference to our overall strategy. So one area that we can really focus on going forward is reducing the discounts, especially in the tables area, and that should help increase our profitability for tables. So now that we've created this dashboard, we've found some insights, we're going to go and publish that to server. So you guys would go to public. I'm just going to publish server because I'm signed in. And when I click on publish, it's going to make that available for others to interact with it. And the same sort of insights that we found. Eventually. Okay, so once it's pushed that up, I'll have that same sort of interactivity that I had in desktop where I can click and filter and drill down, but it'll be able to be done completely on the web without having to actually install software. Usually I use a data set that's just the US, which I guess is much smaller and faster to publish. So that was the kind of quick demo of taking our Tableau data set and building a few different visualizations to find some insights and ultimately creating a dashboard to share with others. Melody, do you want to open up for questions or?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions for Natalie, feel free to ask them now. It looks like it's going to take a little time for that to publish to the server. Does anyone have any
It doesn't normally
questions?
take that long.
It is a pretty big data set with global. You're right on that. Does anyone have any questions? It could even be about tips for presenting data, talking about data, doing demos, anything like that.
So a few nice things to keep in mind when you're doing a demo is it's helpful to tell a story. So instead of just like I click here and I click there and then I do this, to set more of a business story to get people thinking about how they could actually use it. It makes it seem just more kind of straightforward and realistic. Also, kind of summarizing what you showed them and what you did, going back and reviewing that. Common thing that people will say is like tell, show, tell. So to tell them what you're going to do it, and then explain and summarize what you did. Be a helpful way to make sure that things resonate. People tend to, there's like this cliff of people paying attention, especially now that we're all remote, where the beginning and the end is when you get that most significant attention, and in the middle, people lose a lot of the content. So the more you summarize and help them understand what they saw, the more they're likely to remember and keep. Oh, and of course, published on my other screen. So normally I would then go back to to the dashboard and show that same sort of interactivity. Mhm. Any questions?
It looks like we haven't got any in the chat. Oh, we just have one, as I said that. Armando says, when doing a demo, do you think doing a brief PowerPoint about the steps that we will go through would be best, or just jumping into the demo and explaining as you go?
Normally it's good to jump into the demo. If it's a larger presentation, having like a slide to give the agenda, or if you're changing, this one's pretty simple, but if it's a bigger one, sometimes you'll change characters. So having a slide to give that overview. First, we're going to be this guy, then we're going to go in and do that, and then we're going to be person number 2, and we're going to take a look at what his day in a life would look like. If it's a more in-depth demo, I've worked in pre-sales for 15 years and worked for a few different software companies. So if you're doing something that might take more than 30 minutes, more than an hour, you typically want to break it down to different users and set the stage with an agenda.
Perfect, thank you. And then I'm just going to read one more from Gurjit. Do you recommend any resources for learning how to weave a story with the data we have and make it more appealing for people?
That's a good question. I'm pretty sure that the video on the Tableau training page, that first getting started video that does like a 20-minute overview of Tableau, pretty sure that one does include more of a story and how it's set up. I have to admit the script that you'll be getting later doesn't have a huge story with it. So if you just give some thought to like why you're creating that visualization, what it is you're trying to find out, and highlight that, it's a helpful way to weave it in.